are 1,870 high schools in Michigan, and each of them would now require $200, and then one of them would require that $2,000. Which would be negligible to most schools. That would require an extra $376,000 of funding, which would be a bit that I don't think we really should pursue in sort of way of funding. So I would rather suggest that we should move towards striking section 9. This is not a proposal, but just a recommendation towards striking section 9 and rather reinstating section 5 or something along those lines to remove any funding from this bill. And I do agree that this is a good idea and there should be incentive, but I don't think that this is the way to go about it.
Yes.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. I reserve the right to make a motion.
Yes, you do.
Thank you. As previous speakers have mentioned, I find that the incentive would be nice in some cases, but it also is not a significant amount of money to make it that it would be something that the school could use for long-term effects. Also, to me, needing to have an incentive to do this program kind of takes out of the integrity of the bill, saying that the schools aren't going to follow it anyways, so we have to give them money to make them do it. So I would like to make a motion to strike section 7, 9, whatever one it is. Section 7 with the incentive.
Right, is there a second?
Second.
This amendment is open for discussion. Yes?
Lucas Vekovich, Notre Dame delegation, would we not be, or point of information, wouldn't we be striking section 9, not section 7?
Can the amendment author clarify?
Kathleen Bailey, yes, it is section 9. Sorry, I read the wrong one when I was looking at the amendments.
Right, so would you like to amend the amendment to strike section 9 instead?
Yes, Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. I make a motion to amend the amendment to say section 9, not section 7.
Right, is there a second?
Second.
This amendment to the amendment is now open for discussion. Is there any further discussion? All right, as there's no further discussion, we'll now move to a vote on this amendment to the amendment. All those in favor of passing this amendment to the amendment, please signify by saying aye. And all opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment to the amendment has passed. We'll now move to discussion on the amendment. Yes?
Lucas Vekovich, Notre Dame delegation, point of information. If we were to strike section 9, then would we have to reinstate section 5 to clarify that this bill would no longer need funding?
Yes.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation, yes. I was hoping that after we passed this amendment, then we could add in the next amendment. I just didn't want it to get confusing with like 4 things happening.
Yes.
Paul McClintock, delegation. Point of information, along with the reinstating section 5, is there any intent to like add disincentives or incentives after passing this amendment, or do we plan on leaving it as is?
Can anyone answer the question? All right. Yes.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. I feel as though that is a decision that could be made by the House as a whole, and that is something that needs to be discussed between all of us.
Is there any further debate? All right, as there's no further debate, we'll now move to a vote on this amendment. All those in favor of passing this, please check the yes box. And all those opposed? All right, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment shall pass. We'll now move to discussion on the bill.
Point of clarification. I just want to make sure that I have all the amendments written down correctly, so I'm pasting them in the chat. Let me know if any of these amendments had not been passed. Sorry, this one.
Hey, Easton, Section 7 didn't get passed. The second one
It did or didn't?
did not. Section 7, high
Okay.
school shall partake.
Oh, right. Okay. Because we're striking section 7. Got it.
No, section 7 did get passed. It was the amendment to section 9 that didn't
Yeah.
get passed.
Wait, there wasn't a second for one of the amendments.
Yeah, no, wait, no. So the section 7 stated in the chat box did get passed, but there was an amendment that was proposed onto that, adding funding for section 9, but that was what was strike. So section 7, as it says in the chat box, was passed, and everything else in there is correct. There was a proposed amendment that didn't get passed.
So we didn't strike section 7.
No, it struck
No.
section 9.
Okay.
We
Just
yes.
section 9. Got it. Thank you.
All right, the floor is open for debate. Yes.
On the McClintock Chosky delegation, this isn't a point of information. I just wanted to. I feel like there's not necessarily a super strong support for this bill so far in terms of the general idea, like beyond just the mechanical things that we're fixing up here. So there could be people that really love this bill. I'm just saying that if nobody feels super strongly about supporting this bill, I think we've sort of been amending it in order to fail in the end, if that's the case.
Right, is there any further discussion on the bill? And as there's no further discussion, we'll now move to a vote on this bill in its entirety. All those in favor of passing House Bill number 424, please signify by checking the yes box. And all those opposed. In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. The bill is not passed. Right. The next item on our docket is House Bill number 104. I'll give you guys a bit to open that up. And can the clerk please read the title and the bill in its entirety?
Yes. House Bill 104. A bill to mandate the creation of a standing militia specializing in the defense of the Capitol. The people of the state of Michigan enact. Section 1. A bill to mandate the creation of a standing militia specializing in the defense of the Capitol building. Section 2. A standing militia is defined as a state-sponsored military group used to defend the state capitol. Section 3. The state capitol building is defined as the Capitol Building Legislative Office, Lansing, Michigan. Section 4. The standing militia shall be funded and enforced by the Michigan Defense Center. Section 5. It is not feasible for the Michigan Defense Center to punish themselves. Therefore, the ones being punished would be the legislators if put under siege by perpetrators. Section 6. This bill shall go into effect 1 year after passage. And there
Thank you.
have been amendments. The committee added a section 7 that says this militia will be activated for violent protests. Violent protests are ones that either damage the Capitol or involve participants of said protest hurting members of the public. Amend section 4 to read, the standing militia shall be funded and enforced by the Michigan Defense Center. Additional funds shall be diverted from 1% of the current state police budget.
Are those all the amendments? Okay, thank you. Would the bill author like to be recognized for a statement?
I really wrote this bill because of the events that happened January 6th. I thought it was pretty disgusting that a building that should be as secure as our nation's capital was put under siege. And I know there was many threats about the Michigan governor and the Michigan Capitol building. And so I made this bill because I think a standing militia at the Capitol building would not only defend our legislatures and help protect our democracy, but it would defend us too when we go to the Capitol building.
Thank you. Are there any lobbyists, GovCap members, or expert witnesses here to testify? Right, the floor is open for general discussion. Yes?
Point of information, how large would this militia be in comparison to other standing forces?
Can the author answer?
I guess that really isn't Garrett Thorncourt allegation. That isn't really factored into the bill. I think there definitely should probably be an amendment about that. But I think it really would have to be scaled kind of what to like the state police force or the Michigan Department of Defense would deem necessary to like properly secure the building.
Yes, Delegate McClintock.
Tom McClintock delegation. Point of information. What is Section 5 saying when it refers to the legislators being the one punished?
Garrett Thorne Court delegation. It's basically saying that the people who would be affected would be punished by this bill, and like a punishment for not enforcing this bill would be the legislatures would, they risk their own lives.
Yes.
Monte Belkazar, Highland delegation, and this is not a point of information. This is just a general statement. Would it not be better for us to work to, while I think the bill's a good idea and everything after obviously seeing the January 6th insurrection, but would it not be better for us to work together to fix the divide rather than having to go and fund a militia to protect us in events that are occurring in a divided country?
I know you said it's not a point of information.
Delegate Beatty.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. Sorry for that. My computer lagged. But how would the militia members be picked? Would it be by the state or who is making these decisions?
Is that point of information?
Yeah.
Garrett Thorne Court delegation. I think the Michigan Defense Center would view it kind of as like the Secret Service. It would be a trained task force that would they would implement it. They'd be specifically trained for the defense of the Capitol. So it wouldn't be just like a police officer. It would almost mimic the Secret Service.
It's Delegate Van.
Hannah Van Hastings delegation, as the previous speaker mentioned about why use like such force when we could try to fix the divide, I agree with the previous speaker because I feel like just police intimidation is just not the way to go about it. But I know that some of the groups can get quite violent, but I just fear for it. Although there's amendments added that help just state that they would only go into effect with violent protests based on the recent events in the past year. I fear that the police maybe use their powers and attack minorities and peaceful protesters, even with these outlines.
Yes.
Navarre Hagen-Witowski delegation. I do really like the intent of this bill. However, it seems like that this could be just a band-aid for the root of the problem.
Yes.
Garrett Thorne Court delegation. In response to the previous speaker, it wouldn't really be like bully ball with the defense force. It would be more like, the White House has its defense. It's just more of a fact that it's our Capitol building, and I think it deserves the respect of being defended because even with the divide, if we fix the divide, there's always terrorist groups. There's always groups wanting to cause harm to someone, even if we fix the root of the problem, which I am all for doing in not funding a new militia force. However, I think this bill is a good idea also because it's 1% of the Michigan state funding for the defense center, and that is about $8 million, which they probably wouldn't even need that much. So it's relatively cheap for the defense center to fund, and I think it'd be really effective.
Delegate Bailey.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. What all would these funds be used up for within this militia?
Garrett Thorne Corps delegation. It would obviously be used to arm them, give their uniforms, train them, everything entitling training and supplying these troops.
Are you guys, Jerry, is your internet working?
He did say he was having an issue with his Wi-Fi.
I know, it looks like his screen is frozen. That's why I'm asking, because I just wanted to make sure that we could keep the discussion moving. Oh, there he's coming back in.
Yep.
Sorry, my Wi-Fi is going crazy. Okay. Yes.
Alrighty. Kimante Belkazar, Highland delegation. Point of information. Why go to the extent of funding a separate militia, going through the extent of training them and arming them when we already have the Michigan National Guard, and that's already included in the budget. So why not just call them in?
Garrett Thorne, core delegation. As was seen with the attack on the Washington Capitol building, the National Guard, they weren't there when it started, and so I think the standing militia force is more of a preventatory cause. Like as soon as something goes down, they're there. It's not necessarily they'll be able to get into the Capitol and then sit in the legislature's desk and steal stuff.
Yes.
Lucas Vukovic, Notre Dame delegation. Point of information, isn't a militia, so it is from the people. Wouldn't they also take time to respond to this as well? As a militia is not like a permanent army standing around the Capitol, to my knowledge.
Garrett Thorne, core delegation. I'm not sure, but if is we can change the wording of that with an amendment.
Yes.
Point of Demonte Belkazar, Highland delegation. Point of information. If we're going to have a standing militia ready at a moment's notice, would the militia then have to be right near the Capitol, stationed like right near the Capitol? Everybody who is going to be in the militia would have to be picked from people around the Capitol.
Garrett Thorne, core delegation. As I previously stated, I think you can really mimic it off of the Secret Service and how they kind of roll. They are positioned around the Capitol. They're near the Capitol. They have defense measures planned out and set up. And I really think that it could just be, it could be a generally small force because you don't need that many people to secure the entrances of the Capitol.
Yes.
Lucas Vukovic, Notre Dame delegation. Point of information, what is the detriment of increasing our state capital or our state property security officer teams instead? Sorry, let me rephrase that. What point of information, what would be the detriment of increasing our state property security officers instead of adding this entirely new militia?
Garrett Thorne, core delegation. I'm not really sure about that. I guess I didn't really think about adding just more police officers. However, the route I took with this was that we already have police officers, and I mean there was police officers at the Capitol building in Washington, and I really believed, a good job wasn't really done. So like a more drastic measure was required.
Yes.
Anna Von Hagen, Petoskey delegation. This might be out of the blue, but maybe that the Michigan Guard, they weren't ready because the insurrection was so like unthinkable. No one really expected it. And so now that this has happened, maybe more like the Michigan Guard, they could be more well prepared for it now.
Yes. Delegate Thorne.
Garrett Thorne, high school delegation. In response to a previous speaker, I agree that it was out of the blue. However, from my knowledge, they had been protesting and had been making violent claims like all day and times before that. Maybe they weren't taking it at heart, but I definitely do. I agree.
Right, is there any further discussion? Right, as there's no further discussion, we'll now move to a vote on this bill. All those in favor of passing House Bill number 104, please check the yes box. And all those opposed. So I'm counting that it's a difference of 1. Can everyone please vote again so that I can just double check? Now it's a tie. Easton, is there any way to like clear out the votes and have everyone vote at once?
Yep, so to clear out the votes, you go to the participants tab, and then down on the 3 dots, there should be an option to clear all feedback.
Okay. Can everyone just vote again? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Okay, so there appears to be a tie, if I'm not mistaken. Yes?
I believe that it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 to 6.
Yep, it was 8 to
And
6.
Okay.
It has a
in
counter at the
failing
bottom.
the bill.
I saw 8 to 6.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What is it in favor of the yeas or nays?
It was in favor of the nays.
Okay. In the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. The bill is not passed. Right, the next item on our docket is Senate Bill number 409. And can the clerk please read the bill in its entirety?
Yes. Senate Bill 409. A bill to mandate that Michigan citizens over 65 years of age renew their driver's license every 4 years rather than 8. The people of the state of Michigan enact. Section 1. Michigan citizens over the age of 65 shall renew their license every 4 years rather than 8 years, in person only, in accordance with existing laws. Section 2. The new expiration date shall go into effect following a citizen's next renewal. Section 3. Failure to renew a license before expiration shall necessitate a retake of the road test. Section 4. This bill shall be enforced by the Secretary of State. Section 5. This bill shall require no additional funding. Section 6. This bill shall go into effect 1 year after passage, and there are no amendments.
Thank you. Is the author of the bill present? Are there any GovCap members, lobbyists, or expert witnesses here to testify? All right, then the floor is now open for general discussion. Is there any discussion? Yes.
Lucas Vetkovich, Notre Dame delegation. Point of information, what would decreasing the time between renewing your license have to do with anything? As to renew your license, all you need to do in the state of Michigan is to bring your driver's license or another acceptable ID, bring your glasses or contact lenses, and then be asked to take a vision test.
Yes.
Hannah Van Hastings delegation. My assumption is that from this, it's just like as you like get older, like things start to deteriorate. So like, you know, eyesight you go to the eye doctor less often. So I guess like just checking in more often to be sure you're safe and that you're like eligible to be on the road is like why this like idea was put into place.
Yes.
In the Ron Hagen-Petoskey delegation, I feel like if this bill were to pass and it were to only be checking eyes, I wouldn't really think that'd be enough to really cut down that significantly on the time. You probably would have to go further into checking like movement and like not just like eyes.
Yes. Delegate Bailey.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. As previous speakers have mentioned, I don't feel that just renewing your license is enough to check and see if someone is physically and mentally able to drive properly and not risk other people's lives. So I am against this bill.
Yes.
Anna Jaffe, Saginaw Heritage Delegation. I'm also against this bill because it seems like reaction time is also just as important as eyesight, and that if that's not tested or anything for just a license renewal, then like someone could be able to see fine but not have the reaction time necessary to prevent accidents or like drive safely.
Yes.
Colin McClintock, Toski delegation. From what I'm gathering, it's not necessarily that everybody agrees with the idea of the bill, but the bill doesn't go far enough. So, well, I don't personally have any ideas right now. I think that an amendment including things such as testing reaction time would be a great idea here, because otherwise it sounds like people are mostly in agreement that this bill, or at least the bill's intent, is a necessity.
Yes. Delegate Luca.
Lucas Sekovich, Notre Dame delegation. Point of information, would adding a necessity to take this sort of reaction test change the intent of the bill, as it only requires driver's license renewal?
I don't believe so. It's not changing the title or the intent that the author wanted, so you can make amendments without the author's permission for this. Yes.
Anna Von Hagen, Petoskey delegation. Point of information, how would a reaction test or a mental or physical evaluation look like?
Can anyone answer this?
Garrett Thorne, Core delegation. I know a reaction test, they can use a ruler, and they basically they do different tests, like dropping it based on like audible sounds, dropping it based on like you visually watching it drop, and you have to try to catch it, and they can measure where you grabbed it at to determine how fast your reaction time is.
All right, is there any more discussion on this bill? All right, as there's no further discussion, we'll now move to a vote on Senate Bill number 409. All those in favor of passing this bill, please check the yes box. And all those opposed? All right, in the opinion of the chair, the nays have it. The bill is not passed. We only have 10 minutes left, but the next bill on our docket is House Bill number 528. Will the clerk please read the bill in its entirety?
Yes. House Bill 528, a bill to mandate the standardization of yellow light timings on street lights in the state of Michigan. The people of the state of Michigan enact. Section 1. This bill shall mandate that the Michigan Department of Transportation codify and unify the timings of yellow lights within intersections. Section 2. The yellow light timings are to be determined by the Michigan Department of Transportation based upon speed limits and other relevant data. Section 3. This policy shall be reviewed by the Michigan Department of Transportation every 5 years to ensure proper use and enforcement of this policy. Section 4. Any local municipality found to be violating this law shall have an intervention or fine determined by the Michigan Department of Transportation on a case-by-case basis. Section 5. This bill shall not require funding from the state budget, but may generate revenue from fines determined by the Michigan Department of Transportation. Section 6. This bill shall be enacted by the state upon passage, and municipalities will have 6 months to comply with the Michigan Department of Transportation's regulations and guidelines. There have been no amendments made to this bill.
Right, thank you. Is the author of the bill present? I believe there is a GovCap member that's wanting to come and testify, so but we'll just wait for her to come. So the floor is open for general discussion. Delegate Luca.
Lucas Sekovich, Notre Dame delegation. I agree entirely with this bill because although I'm unaware as to whether this bill would make exceptions for yellow light timings on scenarios of which would require a different timing, which I'm unaware of any situations that would require. But overall, I agree that, yeah, this should be something that's standardized. I don't see why there should be any point aside from like special cases, which I can't think of any right now. I don't think that there should be any reason that these wouldn't be standardized. Like, it could just cause confusion if it isn't.
And Delegate Bailey?
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation, I am in full support of this bill, as even in the small town I live in, stoplights on different sides of the town, the yellow light is different. And that causes confusion and hesitation, especially for new drivers and student drivers, because on one side of the town, it's 10 seconds to get through it, and on the other side of the town, it's only 5 seconds.
Delegate Jaffe?
Anna Jaffe, Saginaw Heritage Delegation. So like I agree with the point of the bill, but at the same time, it's a little bit confusing because it says in the bill the point is to standardize it so commutes aren't too long, but in some places the yellow light would get longer and then in other places it would get shorter. So like it might change it up. And then also like it says that the yellow lights are determined based on like the speed limit and other factors like that. So by standardizing it, it could put people in danger by not having a long enough speed yellow light for said speed limit.
Delegate McClintock?
McClintock, P delegation. Point of information. Just implementing link for a single link for like throughout the again.
Sorry, you're cutting out a lot. Can you repeat that?
Yes, am I audible right now?
Yes.
Sorry. Colin McClintock, Petoskey delegation. Point of information, just to clarify, would this bill be implementing a single standard length of every yellow light in the state of Michigan?
Right, Delegate Bailey?
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. I am in the same delegation as the bill author and do personally know him. And his intent was to make it the same throughout the state so that when you are visiting different towns, it's standard compared to what your personal area of the state would be.
Yes.
And the Van Hastings delegation, as a previous speaker mentioned about how there's different speed limits and that's kind of how the yellow lights are based on, like, wouldn't it be a little bit like the traffic and like just the speeds, wouldn't it be weird to just have a standard like yellow light? Like, would it be a longer one or like really short? Because that could really affect like what the speed limit is. Because if it's a longer one, I think it'd be like, I guess, okay for all of them, but yeah.
Delegate Bailey.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. It is my understanding that there would be a committee through the Michigan Department of Transportation that would make this decision based on averages throughout different cities and towns and villages and whatnot. So I do believe that having a standard would also help, because if I go somewhere where the speed limit is different in their town, but I know that, oh, it's going to be 15 seconds, I know if I have to hit my brakes so I don't get hit, or if I do have time to get through or not.
Yes.
Lucas Vekovich, Notre Dame delegation. Point of information, are we specifically referring to the time of the green light or the time of the yellow light? As I'm picking up on some confusion because I haven't ever encountered a yellow light that was more than about 5 seconds long, but we're referring to something about 15 seconds long.
Yes, Delegate Bailey.
Kathleen Bailey, Quincy delegation. That's my bad. I don't know the standard time for a yellow light, so I just said the first number that came to mind. But yes, it is just yellow lights in this bill.
Delegate Thorne.
Garrett Thorne, core delegation. I'm in support of this bill. I'd really hope that it would kind of take a good median for the yellow lights and make them 5 to 6 seconds, because I know when I was doing my driver's training, personally, I figured out that I was colorblind for yellow red, I know people like me struggle when the lights change quick, because it's hard you have to look at the position instead of the color. So it's really hard and you kind of like bug out for a moment and maybe hit the brake too soon. So definitely in support of this bill.
So just as a reminder, the session ends in 2 minutes, so we might want to table this bill soon. But yeah, Delegate Svekovic.
Lucas Svekovic, Norarian delegation. After a bit of research, I found that there are minimums for speeds, such as for 25 miles per hour or less, it is 3 seconds for the yellow light. Then like for 35, it would be 3.6 seconds. And for 50, it's 4.7. So it seems like there's that yellow light differentiation in timing to allocate for the slowing down of the vehicle. So I don't believe that standardizing that all yellow lights across the state of Michigan would be the correct way to go about it, but rather setting a standard for the yellow lights on a road of a specific speed limit would be the way to go about it, instead of setting a minimum for that time. For example, if there was a road that was 25 miles per hour, they would all be set to 3 seconds instead of being 3 seconds and 3.2 seconds. So going around and just blanket covering them all as a single time limit may not be the way to go about it, but this is based on the research that I've just found.
Right, so because of the lack of time, I'm going to entertain a motion to move to table this bill. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, so all those in favor of tabling this bill, please signify by checking the yes box. And all those opposed. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The bill is now tabled. I believe that Ms. Deering had an announcement to make.
I do. Thank you for recognizing me as a speaker for a moment. So I believe Easton is going to put